Welcome to Your Pharmacy Career podcast, proudly brought to you by Ravens Recruitment, Australia's leading specialist pharmacy recruitment agency. The podcast series has been created to shine a light on the diverse and inspiring careers of Australia's pharmacists. Each episode will focus on the varied career opportunities within the pharmacy industry by exploring the career paths taken by leaders in the fields of community pharmacy, hospital, industry, government and professional organisations. Careers never follow a defined path. Everyone's story is different and unique in their own way. The podcast series will help you discover the world of opportunities that exist and reveal pathways to achieve your dreams and aspirations. Whether you are a pharmacy student, early career pharmacist, or simply looking for a change at any stage of your career, the podcast series is designed to help you navigate ways into a career and a life that you love. Your host of the podcast series is Ali Sue. Ali, herself a pharmacist, is now the founder of Global Pharmacy Entrepreneurs and a passionate advocate for pharmacists to grow, innovate, excel, and make a lasting impact in the world. It's now over to our host, Ali Sue.
Hi, and welcome to Your Pharmacy Career podcast. This is Ali Sue. Thank you for listening and sharing our last episode, where we learned from Regina Cowie, the National Healthcare Service Manager at Australian Pharmaceutical Industries, API. We gained great insights into her experiences, which included exploring the opportunities throughout Australian suburban, city, and remote settings, such as rural and remote support in Darwin, Northern Territory. If you want to know more about her experiences and how she became the National Healthcare Service Manager at one of Australia's leading healthcare and beauty companies, then make sure you listen to the last episode. March has been a month of celebrating the achievements of women internationally. As we approach the end of the month, let's not forget it is not just a day or month to celebrate and recognize women. It is an ongoing campaign to help women around the world to be heard, understood, empowered, and supported. The global UN Women theme for International Women's Day this year is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. It's a timely reminder of how important it is to celebrate women in pharmacy leadership roles. Today, we are very fortunate to have a great female leader in pharmacy, Pharmaceutical Society of Australia Fellow Joyce McSwan, to join our show and share with us her journey as a pharmacy leader. Joyce is a multi-award-winning clinical consultant pharmacist and educator within the field of pain management. She is the clinical director of the Gold Coast Primary Health Network, Turning Pain into Gain program, and managing director of PainWISE. Before we hear from Joyce, I want to wish you a safe and happy Easter holiday. Thank you so much for all your support in the past 9 episodes. We're going to take a break for 4 weeks before we continue our journey sharing the stories of innovators and leaders in the Australian pharmacy industry. Please take time to listen and take notes from our past episodes to receive invaluable insights from our amazing guests. Without further ado, let's welcome Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. How are you today?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Ali. Very well, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited I get to talk to you, especially in this really special month. It's International Women's Month. And this year, the UN theme for International Women's Month is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. I think as a woman leader, you are in the pharmacy world, and it's perfect time for us to have this discussion and learn about your journey, your pharmacy career journey. And we're here really to share with pharmacy students and early career pharmacists and pharmacists, how did you create your successful pharmacy career?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. Very kind of you to kind of, have me, especially in this very important month. My daughter so happens to be born on the 8th of March, which is, yes,
Happy birthday to your daughter.
National Women's Day itself. So that, I think, says a lot. So it's very exciting. Look, I think, to be really honest, out of just pure restlessness, I would say. I I was incredibly restless, and I still am constantly restless as a clinician. I probably, when I became a pharmacist, I never really saw myself as a pharmacist. I was a clinician. So I was kind of part of the clinical healthcare system, and I so happened to have expertise in the medication side of it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, and at the end of every day, I would sort of almost check in on whether I was being a patient advocate or not. Patient advocacy was always what I signed up in clinical work for. And I just knew that, okay, medication was just a facilitator of that. So probably I was a patient advocate first, I was a clinician second, and then I was actually a pharmacist third. So that was kind of how I always saw myself, or my ethos of practice. Yeah, and then basically purely out of restlessness, I saw some gaps in the system as I became more experienced as a pharmacist. And then I think, as most restless people do, they try and find solutions. And I basically started by, there was no platform to enable to help me to do what I wanted to do. And I'm obviously in the pain management space, but pharmacists they weren't involved very much in a pain management space, but yet I could do so much because I could see opioids being such a problem, and where were we going to go beyond that? So I started to build castles in my mind in terms of envisioning what it could look like if I was given a chance. So I think that's where it started. Yeah.
Wow, you have touched on really, really important points. When we think from a clinician point of view perspective and patient care perspective, the world is our oyster. We can go out and create and find solutions to take care of people in the community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was always my check-in in going, have I advocated for you? Have I clinically, behaved or presented as a clinician would? And then have I used my craft, which is knowledge in medication, which a pharmacist does? Have I done that for you? But it's a third, actually. It's not the first, because by then, holistic, and it's been sort of the guiding principles of how I've always worked.
So can you take us back and tell us about your story? Where did you grow up, and when and how did you decide to pursue a pharmacy career?
I think I always knew I was going to be in a medical career of some kind. From as young as I was, both my parents are clinicians, so I was always involved in their conversation, overhearing the politics of healthcare and what have you. So I always knew I would be in healthcare somehow. My probably passion for patient care, and probably to a certain slant on pain management, was pretty much from my mum. From as young as I was, probably 3 or 4, my mother got very poor, got injured at work as a nurse. She was a nurse. She was very, sort of laid down for ages, like all through my childhood. I was probably helping to care for her. I'd come home from school and she would essentially not be able to, get up and do things for us. So it was a very, my sister and I are very independent from young. And I could see that despite her so-called disabilities, she did recover definitely in her own way, never fully, but she coped so well. She coped so well and still ran a wonderful household, gave us all the opportunities. So I could see how well managed she was. So it was kind of, that told me that even though you're sick or you've got illnesses or disabilities, whatever, it wasn't going to define her. Plus, I think she had a bit of a personality that was never lie down and die. So she was probably a very big influence on that. And then from there, I think I got involved in sort of a lot of workplaces, year 10, where you go to workplaces and you get exposed to different areas. I was, again, doing time with some of those services and got really inspired by some people in there. And I think that's why mentors is so important. Like as a student, find a mentor. It doesn't have to be your immediate working partner or working person at work. Sometimes you just don't like the people you work with, but, find external mentors that will, assist you through your journey. It doesn't have to be a pharmacist. It can be from outside, but find a mentor, because I think mentoring is so helpful. And it's also helpful for mentors to give that of themselves. I've mentored many young GPs, many young pharmacists, many young clinicians, and it's very rewarding.
Wow. So exactly how did you find these mentors? I think a lot of students, when I was a student, all I did was go into uni and study. And how did you find mentors outside your everyday life? And how do you know which mentor is suitable for you?
Yeah, I must say in my time, it was really hard. I was probably quite shy as well, to be honest, believe it or not. You wouldn't believe it now. But, my early life in the industry, I was very shy, and I, found it quite hard to find good mentors, to be really honest. So because I had, one or two key ones, and that was all you really need. And it was through probably work, and it was through a lot of observing, observe, watch, and watching, how people behave in the industry is really important. And then you tend to gravitate to people that you are maybe a bit more alike with, So start with, we'll start with the fact that you like them for a start. And then, whether it's something that, inspires you. But I think mentors can come from, it doesn't all have to be within the career. It can be even outside the career, might be even a lawyer, might be even a family friend. But do get a mentor, I think, is really, really helpful for early career people, because it gives you somewhere to go and debrief that sometimes isn't, available in your family, or even, and perspective. Different industries have different perspectives as well. So it's very helpful not to stick sometimes within the industry as well. So my two key mentors, one was financier, like a financial person from the accounting background, and just how they thought, how they talked. And then another mentor was within the industry that I have and still have, who was a colleague, and we kind of grew from there. And another mentor was actually a GP colleague of mine, and we kind of co-mentored, at the time when we were needing each other. And sometimes just have, the wall that you bounce with. You want to play ball, you got to have a ball that you bounce with. And it's just having that bouncing ball. Yeah.
And I think it's great you're acting as our mentor right now, sharing your wisdom and your experience with us through this podcast. So thank you.
Yeah, and more than happy to. Mentoring is part of, just part of the giving back of the service. I don't think there needs to be, you don't pay for a mentor. You can't bribe them. It's got to be very much from the heart. And I love mentoring young career pharmacists. And I think in this, because I've also walked the journey of innovation, and Australia probably, I must say, my journey really doesn't teach someone how to innovate. What does innovation really look like? What is it? What are the key ingredients? I think that's really important. And I've been, obviously using a lot of my talent, time, opportunity as they come about to kind of share with people what even innovation means. Because everyone can have a good idea, but good ideas don't just, sort of pop out of a box. They require a specific, implementation journey, and that's not often taught. So I believe that we have a lot of good ideas in young people's minds and heads, and, and what I used to sit in my office to dream about. But then I think what I was able to do with a couple of good opportunities was to implement that. Now, at the time, nobody taught me how. So it was a lot of finding your way through. It could have probably been faster had I had someone mentoring me, but that wasn't really available. I don't think it's really still available very much. You kind of bit by trial and error, and sometimes you give up.
Can you share with us a few points of how did you turn those ideas into the actual program or the things that we created so far?
Absolutely. And certainly, please stop me because this can turn into a day's conversation. I've got a lot to say about innovation. The first thing, and I always reflect about this actually question that you ask. In fact, I have conversations with myself and ask myself these questions. But the The first thing was to adjust how I defined work, how I actually defined work. That was very important because work and innovation is very different. And, innovation is like a hobby that you have to work on all the time. But then because it's usually a part of you and a part of your daily work, I had to stop thinking about working 9 to 5 as, if I was to be an innovator. I actually didn't know I was an innovator until about 5 years into the journey, what I've become. And that was quite a hard question to ask. What is this now? What is this? What have I done? And so first of all, you've got to adjust how, if you want to be an innovator, if you've got good ideas in your head that are just busting to get out, then you've got to not worry about working 9 to 5. You have to, you have to be working on it all the time. I think that's number one. That's number one, because people who say they want to innovate and they've got great ideas and they're only able to dedicate 9 to 5, then it's going to be a very long time before they'll see that idea come to fruition. All right. So that's why I say you have to redefine work. So work may become hobby, maybe just you. I often say to people, look, work is not what I do. My work is who I am. So when it's who you are, it's just a natural part of you, so that you can work on it all the time and you don't have to be feeling guilty that you're working. You're just doing who you are. And I think that's number one. How I started that, even when it was defined 9 to 5 for me back then, what I did was, because work was what I did, but it was actually more who I was. And because I enjoyed it so much, I would go to work. So to put it practically for your audience, like I would go to work and I would serve the patients and I would, go through my clinical patient advocacy, clinician. Hey, I'm a pharmacist. So I would go through those 3 points just naturally. And then I would almost go, what else can I do a little bit above and beyond? Because it's not what I do. Sure, it's what I got paid for from that 9 to 5. But then I want it to be more than that, because that keeps me passionate, So in those days, I actually saw and identified the gap that the pharmacy assistants were always quite unsupported. And so I created like a pharmacy assistant group. It was called PAG. It was called the PAG group. I still remember it, PAG. I call them all PAGs. And so we had the PAG group, and PAG group meant that I gave them training. So I would give them spot training every time I had a chance. So if we had some downtime, I would go to even a young pharmacy assistant and I'll go, here, come to have a look at this section. What can you tell me about this section? So it was just part of my, my giving back, my, sort of that passion. And then they learned something. I felt good that I imparted knowledge, and then they served the customers better or the patients better. So for me, I sort of, probably in my small way, I kind of started that innovation even within a 9 to 5 role. And of course, look, the bosses loved it. There was initiative seen. I wasn't doing it for those reasons, but they, my ranks went up, So, and again, really wasn't for those reasons, but it's always noticed. So I learned very quickly that if I want to be an innovator, if I want to stand out, if I believe in what I'm doing, I would stop my 9 to 5 mindset. And yeah, while, you need to sleep and do that. So it's nice to have boundaries, of course, but it doesn't mean that you can't optimize that time that you're there with innovation, because I think we all have downtime at work. We all have downtime, that sort of small chat time can be turned into innovation. Of course, you got to rest and make sure you self-care and all those things. And sometimes you have to have a longer journey. Everyone's in a different part of their lives. You have demands, your family demands. So, of course, if you have a very specific passion that doesn't belong to pharmacy or is slightly outside of that, then you have to start, between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. That's where you put that little space to work on your hobby ideas, But that's, I think, where if you then get stuck, mentoring's really helpful then to go, okay, I've got this grand plan idea. How do I turn it into something, I think that mentoring can be very helpful to help you to hopefully put that idea into proper implementation or opportunity. But it is a hard work process, but you don't call it hard work because it's passion. So it's enjoyable, inspiring, it's sweating with inspiration.
Yeah. What's the best way to approach a mentor that you think can really help you?
Absolutely. So number one, if you find someone that you think, oh, gee, I don't mind them, I like them, I gravitate to what they're saying. Yeah, that rang a bell with me. I mean, start there. Got to start there, okay? If you hate everything you heard, then that's not the right mentor for you. But if you kind of went, oh, then just simply approach them and, be brave. I could have been braver in my career, but be brave and sort of just contact them. And just say, look, I really noticed that, or that really spoke to me. I'd like to see if you can mentor me, or if not, can I tell you what I'm doing and what I'm passionate about? Do you have any other people you can align me with? Because what happens is usually like will attract like. People with a bit more forward in their career will usually have already networks where they really have got key people they gravitate to. And it may not be them, but it may be, or they may not have the time, and that's okay too, but they may have other people that they'll go, from what you're telling me that you're interested in, hey, Joe, my friend, would be perfect. Let me connect you both, And it comes by that word recommendation I always try and go to, because that's really useful. And honestly, anybody who's usually approached that way I'd be very surprised if they ever said no, And then if they did, well, they're not the right mentor, and it's fine, So, and explore broadly, explore broadly, be okay with exploring outside your own industry, if that's what it takes. But a few other tips is look at their value, listen to their value of what they're saying, do their values align with your values? That's very helpful. Are their ethics similar to yours? You're not going to do it all. They might take a couple of cups of coffee, but just also listen back. So it's not also about what you want to get, but what you're also sort of able to give. And it's that sort of match, trying to see if it's a 1-all match, and just give it a go. Give it a go. You won't find the right one always first up, and that's okay. That is okay. And you may even have a few, and that's great too. Yeah.
We know that in your own work, you've created so many unique programs, innovations like PainWISE Pharmacy Professional Service Program, and also Persistent Pain Program for Turn Pain into Gain Program, and more. So what's your vision for your career?
Well, I think I sat back and analysed this. Funny enough, you should ask this question probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I've, really looked at my career in the past. And to be really honest, because work is who I am and not what I do, for me personally, I have no intentions to retire ever. And mark me to this. So I probably have still, as much as health will give me, and that's where a lot of self-care comes in, probably a good 30 years yet, and I'm so excited by having 30 years yet. In fact, I was like, only 30? Oh, my God. Again, because I redefined work back ages ago. So, yes, you got to still, do your bread and butter job, and that's fine, because some of you guys are definitely in that. But for me, with 30 years ahead, I hope to open as many opportunities as possible. I hope to look at where we can go with more health programs for pharmacy, properly evidence-based programs. I hope to support the industry with that, because I think from all our learned experience, we've got probably a really good framework. I hope to have more partners that obviously aligned with that in that area. I hope to hopefully, look at other areas of healthcare, not just in pain. We've been doing some preparations in mental health work. I would love to help, young pharmacists, young career bloom their own innovations. I think a lot of ideas are in people's heads, not yet. And I think they've got solutions which me singly wouldn't, so facilitating that would be great. Yeah, so with multi-project, multi-stream, wherever the journey wants to take us, we'll go, Yeah, so I'm quite excited.
Well, I am so excited for the future. Anything is possible once we change in that mindset.
Yeah, and you can start in the everyday life. Like some of you guys might be sitting there going, oh, very well and good, You're kind of like not in the pharmacy. You don't know what I have to go through every day. I've just got the script looking at me and this looking at me, and then out goes the other side, But I think even in that moment, you can be creative, Stick an extra little brochure in there that you wouldn't normally do, Ask the patient, can I call you in a few days? And innovate that point, because you normally wouldn't do it. If a doctor rang you and kind of gave you some good feedback or had some questions that, you can say, hey, how about we meet for coffee? Like, I'd love to be curiously knowing what you're thinking and how I can support you more. Just go a little bit above and beyond. And that is innovation in itself. It's a seed. It's a starting of the seed of it. And once you get a taste of it, more confidence grows. Oh, gee, that was fabulous. Then you feel like you removed a couple of bricks, and then that confidence, and it really starts here. It's here. No one, you don't got to wait for it to come to you. It starts here. This is the only limiter. And it's so powerful, so powerful. So now any project, anything that comes, I'm like, yeah, sure, let's take a look. But know that the journey, it will be a journey, and the end is usually different from the start. So you've got that. Be okay with that. And then it's just a discovery journey. And again, some of the members of the audience also, because, money always comes back. And there are two commodities. Actually, just quickly, these are the other two things you have to get through your own mindset. One is how you define work. Second is the trading commodities that you have, meaning we've got money as the trade, and the other major commodity is time. So those are your trading commodities. If you don't have money, trade time. Have time, trade money. All right? They're the only two commodities. And if you can use those two well, nothing's impossible.
Wow. I'm sure all our audience wanted to sign up.
I'm more than humbled if people were to ask me to do that. More than humbled. I have a lot of time because I know I'm not going to be the solution for everything. I know, some of us are not going to be solutions. I think the solutions lie out there. It's not, we just have to facilitate that solutions. And if we don't facilitate the solutions, how are solutions going to come, And unfortunately, reinventing the wheel or starting again from scratch, you don't want 15 years on and go, hey, I now can tell you how to innovate, You kind of don't want to have someone to have to walk that journey, because usually people give up. Usually people give up. I've been very fortunate to have family behind me who understand my journey of innovation. So I'm not a singular product. My family, my children, my husband, we work as a team to allow me to do my innovations. So I'm very fortunate about that as well. And that's also a key ingredient. I mean, if there's an expressions of interest for me to run an innovation series, I'm more than happy to do that. Because there are truly some key ingredients that I feel in reflection are so necessary, and that maybe are not well understood. And if it was understood, how many more solutions can we get from the future people that are to come?
What's your vision for the future of pharmacy? What are some opportunities of growth you see in the pharmacy industry?
Well, I think pharmacy has truly proven itself in the last 2 years in Australia, through our, bushfires, through floods, natural disasters, through COVID, we have honestly stood there. And I can only, really, really praise all my colleagues who have been out there, rain, hail, sunshine, patiently copping, no doubt, abuse as well, being stressed. I've seen it. I've heard it firsthand. We have truly, I feel, as a community group of pharmacists, and even obviously hospital pharmacists and industry pharmacists, but probably more so our community pharmacists have stood out because of the circumstances of the times. But all of us, I think, are very grateful for how we have all stood out. And because of that, I feel that pharmacists have an incredibly bright future. We do have to make sure we are upskilled and that we're clinically capable. So we must continue to keep our clinical capabilities there, so that our knowledge of things, whether it's COVID, whether it's, migraine, whether anything new out there, whether it's cannabis, we've got to make sure that we are as scientifically informed as possible. Obviously, people like myself try to provide, modules, education, so on, to make your life easier so that you can, you can sort of have a concentrated dose in a short amount of time, given everyone's time poor. So obviously that's my responsibility in what I do. But that said, if we are capably sound and current, then I think we can help the health system a lot. As I said, first being patient advocates, second being clinician within a healthcare system, and then obviously third within our scope of being a pharmacist and the medication work that we can do. So I think we're reasonably limitless within our scope. I don't mean we want to be doctors. We don't want to be specialists. We're not, but within our scope of primary care, which is still a high percentage of where pharmacists are employed, we can impact that. Hopefully workplaces are there to facilitate that for us. That's, of course, always hard, The workplace has to appreciate that as well. But workplaces are also made of who? Pharmacists.
Mm.
So again, if we've got pharmacists with the right mindset and grow that well, so that even if you are corporate in a brand store, even if you are, the pharmacist in charge in a brand store or a non-branded store, whatever, you've got that similar, high quality clinical knowledge to start off with, and being able to, lower all your shields and guards and be able to reach out to the other allied health and GP networks. That's where I think we'll get our greatest strength. I believe that the government are very trusting of that. I can see through their fundings and, through their alliances with our different key state bodies, the Guild, the PSA. I'm, hopeful that truly the government do see our role, especially last 2 years, as being very critical in the healthcare system. So I think we've proven some of that, I think the next step is to making sure that we live up to that clinically as a workforce, that we don't get, and that's why I think mentoring is so important, because we don't get cynical when we have good mentors. We know, sometimes our workplaces may not allow us to do that. That's the workplace. But at least have people outside of that to be able to adjust and counteract the negative sometimes voice that might come. Because if we all don't get our mindsets too affected, we can ride through, and be clinically able and ready to take on the roles that we can be.
So we'll have to equip ourselves with clinical skills and continue education.
Yeah, that is our key business. That is our core business. A core differentiating business is our knowledge, right? It is. It's what people crave for, and it's an evidence-based knowledge, which I think many pharmacists do try very hard. They try to be very proactive. Time is, of course, a limiter. But that said, give yourself goals, smart goals, very simple. Bring it back down to, you yourself. Get smart goals. Don't just be random in what happens, whatever the year brings, No, be quite structured in that. And I think that's where mentors can help you. What's your goal for this year? What do you want to do at the end? And then work with the end in mind. Having some structure is really important to also guide you to where you want to go.
Yeah, thank you. So another question is related to this. What other qualities and skill sets student or pharmacists can prepare to create a successful pharmacy career like yours?
Of course, there's two key areas. One is behavioural and the other is purely skill-based. So the two areas that you have to prepare yourself to excel, if you want to excel, excelling is, humans are made to excel. Humans like to have rewards. Our brain works on reward systems. We go to work for a reward. The better we're rewarded, the better we feel. We feel more purposeful. So that's just how we're made. So having two areas, behavioural and clinical or skills, is important. So behavioural, obviously, self-awareness, preparation of that, being self-aware, wanting to grow, that growth mindset, being able to be okay with constructive feedback, knowing how to process that in your own system, So a lot of behavioural attitudes and mindset, I think, is a huge one to really, pave a good way of success. You look at lots of people who are of success, and success can be in many ways. Success doesn't have to be that's identified for yourself. You've got to you've got to define your own success first of all. There's no one else to define it. You've got to identify that and be okay with that. But most people who are so-called excelling or successful or outcomes based got a mindset that they've either worked on or that they've developed. Yeah, and anything there can be developed. Doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter your history, doesn't matter how many opportunities you had or didn't have, that is 100% able to be developed, right? So that's that part. Again, the other side is obviously clinical core skills, where you are in your scope, where you want to be. So if you're heading, and that's usually what you like. What are you passionate about? You can't stick at something, you get up in the morning and go, oh, not that again. If you're not a hospital pharmacist and you don't like the hierarchy in there, then that's not going to be for you. No matter how much you want that to be, it may not happen. Alternatively, if you don't like people in a community busy pharmacy, then maybe that's, you might be more research. So wherever you feel you can get up and go to in the morning and get quite, a skip in your step, head towards that direction. Even if you're not in that direction, it doesn't matter, because generally a lot of us come out of uni, go to a community pharmacy to work, or you find a job that you can get. It could have been in the brand that you hate most or you don't, kind of agree with most, and yet you've got to work there because of a job, right? That's okay. That's just where you start. That's not where you're going to end. But you've got to chart that course so you can see how to get out of there, So that's where your clinical upskilling needs to happen to get you there. Whether it's a course, whether it's work experience even, doesn't have to be paid, whether it's external, peripheral, volunteering even, or even it's starting to get mentors in that space. Ease you into that, perhaps. But build the skill that you need for where you want to head. That's really important. I think, and with both of those in your little train, you'll move forward very easily, very comfortably, very enjoyably. That's important. Got to enjoy it. And I think one of the biggest things we don't do very well is to celebrate it. Celebrate it. No matter how small, just even within yourself, just celebrate it. Doesn't have to be a big hoo-ha. It doesn't have to be a major award. Just for yourself. Make sure you celebrate that win, because that keeps you going. That's actually how the human body works. So if you can work with your human body, then you'll stick it out. You don't give up.
Wow. Can really see that play out. I think it's very important. Again, you mentioned having a mentor helping us to plan that ahead in a structured way to move forward. It's important.
In a structured way. It doesn't mean that the structure can't change. It's a very dynamic process. Like I said, the end may not look like how it started. Sometimes we think the start is how it's to look like, and we're very rigid in going, that's how it's supposed to look like, and that's all my vision is. But, usually they're stepping stones, but usually the end is better than how it started, because you've got experience along the way and you've had mentors hopefully along the way that's helped to shape that and be dynamic about it.
Yeah.
It's changeable. It's okay that it's changeable.
Wow. Next question is, what would you do differently if you can restart your pharmacy career? Or was that one thing if you would like to change?
Wow, that's a good question. I probably would have really liked to understand better and sooner the word value. So value, it's a very big word, and it's a critical word in everything that we do, I've come to realize. And it was only in the last 3 years that I actually understood that word well. And it came from a mentor who really helped me to understand what value meant, as in creating your own value, making sure what you did had value, making sure that, your collaborators understood your value, and also patients got value. How does value really look like for patients? How does value look like in a community's pharmacy setting? I think that's a word that's not understood at all very well. And value isn't just about money. Value is about outcomes. It's about, this add-on. Everyone's talking about, add-on. Well, that's a value. But what does that mean for different people? So to me, in hindsight, I wished, and it's just part of the journey, but I think that if I knew that earlier, that would have been really helpful for me. I struggled with that concept for a very long time, and nobody taught that very well. It may still sound very vague to some of you, even hearing me say it, but value is a very big word that you can't move forward with in implementing much without understanding that word well, and that comes back down, if you were to apply it, that comes back down to your even everyday work. How are you valued? What are you going to do to be better valued? Is your boss seeing value in you as an employee? Is your patient seeing value in every interaction, which is what makes them come back? Because once you've understood all that and know how to optimize it, then suddenly your path and perception changes. So that's probably one thing I would have really liked to have learned earlier. Probably I'd say that was one of the major things. Another one may have been being probably less of a perfectionist. I had this idea that to innovate, to create, and to launch, that everything had to be super perfect and ready to go, that it was tested good enough, that, and in some cases, I suppose there is need for that. But equally, the concept of piloting ideas was something I was able to do, especially with the persistent pain program work. And that told me that it's okay to start, even if things are not fully perfect, that you would learn along that journey if you only but started. You can't start with nothing. You've got to start with something. But it doesn't have to be amazing before you put it to a bit of a test. And then, you can always test small and then grow with the test. So that was probably a very big lesson as well. But that was also probably a bit of personality, a bit of maybe my own value system of myself, but my own calculation of my own efforts as well. So being okay that sometimes you don't have to be amazing and everything's perfect before you start. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. Next question is about International Women's Month.
this year's theme is Women in Leadership. As a pharmacist, can you share with us your advice as a woman leader in the industry?
Women are leaders. We are usually in a household, the chief executive officer of so many things already. Immediately if you get married, which some people do or don't, or be in a relationship, you're leading your partner and vice versa. If you're a mother, you lead your children. So I think in many, many essence, and even within a framework of a family, even if you're a daughter, you'll have different areas of leading. You could be the first born and you're already leading your siblings, and I think we practice leadership all the time. We're just not always giving it that term. I think we naturally, by natural just being female, I think we have already lots of leadership qualities. So that's probably number one to acknowledge. I think I never planned to be a leader in the industry. I sort of just believed in what I did, and I was restless enough to just pursue the passions of the gaps that I wanted to assist with, especially in the healthcare industry. You tend to be people who gravitate to healthcare are probably quite empathetic people. There's different visions in mind. So I think as a female leader, I'm very proud of that. But I'm also equally wanting to make sure that we're not putting that pressure on ourselves that we necessarily always have to, be at that upper echelon to lead. We already are leading. So number one, let's get that one out the door. Whether your name appears in what journal or not doesn't mean anything. You already lead. And I think matriarchs in a family system, your grandmothers, they're all leaders. So we're already leaders. But in an industry, in workplaces, we also need to know that we can't do everything and we can't expect ourselves to have it all. I think that is important to adjust. People may seem like they get it all or have it all, but usually they don't. There's trade-offs. They don't have it all because when you're at work, you're not with your family. That's not all, but maybe materialism, commercialism may have us think that, hey, we can have it all. And that I think that's probably not true. We can't have it. And it's okay that we don't have it all. If you choose to be a leader within your industry, there will be sacrifices and trade-offs. They may be for short term, maybe for the longer term. It doesn't matter. It's for everyone to choose what that journey looks like. What's important is we must be very good role models. I think where leadership really comes in and the real truth of leadership is that we must be really good and hopefully in positive role models. And that's what leadership is about. It's making sure that other people you influence are better than you, is what I feel leadership is. Leadership is not about bossing people around. A leader is someone who makes sure that their team is better than them. That makes you a good leader because that's what you want to do. You want to be an optimizer of others. That's actually the true definition of leadership. And then you're facilitating. You're just guiding. That's what leadership is about. Mm-hmm. To me, I think women are natural leaders because we've done it for historical reasons. We're probably made that way. And I think hopefully more and more if there are opportunities and frameworks within a workplace that helps to cater for that, that will enable more female leaders. Because they understand purely that we've got family demands, that we've got, whatever other commitments, but yet, hey, she would be a really good leader. If a workplace can help to facilitate that, knowing that she can't do it all, then that will give us good female role models. And then the cycle has to finish. It has to close the cycle. No point going to the top and staying there. That's why I believe so much in mentoring. You have to give it back. A that just stays in, doesn't give it back, kind of, reaches Everest and doesn't know how to come down. I mean, you'll freeze in Everest, you die up there. You got to be able to close the loop and give it back. Then you survive long time. And I think that's really the key. It's a cycle. Leadership is a cycle. not to stay there and be there forever. It's to stay there to give back and climb another mountain, maybe a higher one. I don't know, maybe a lower one. Maybe you get to climb 3 mountains rather than one big one. But it's a cycle, and it must come back and close that loop off, because then we raise new leaders. And then that continues that momentum of ultimately why? To find solutions for problems. Simple. And the solution usually doesn't lie with the guy who just reached Mount Everest, right? Because we've got to help more people climb Everest. So the guy's got up there, he's gone, I know which route to take. Let me show you so you can take the next climb. That's true leadership to me, and that's what I strive for. And and I think that's really the good one, measure for yourself, but measure for you watching someone else to be a leader, to go, are they really a leader? And as women, the other thing I think women leaders need to be very careful of and make sure they do is just self-care. Self-care, because sustainability, if someone is so talented, we want them around for a long time. We want them to go, hey, I've been in leadership, now I need to take a little break before I come back to leadership again, and that's okay, or little breaks all day, every day, doesn't matter, but they need to self-care for themselves so they can continue to give sustainably. I think those are my views on women and leadership and what that looks like. And I think everyone's a leader. If you want to be a leader, you can be a leader. Doesn't matter how small that is. We're leading our patients every day. We're leaders for our patients every day. That's why that self-advocacy defines that immediately for you. If you're an advocate, you're a leader. Done. So, which I think, if we sort of measure that against that, then we're already hopefully leading, and then mainly now it's building on that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Joyce, for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and your story with us. And we can't wait to follow your journey, and hopefully reach out to you and learn more from you. So thank you. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Your Pharmacy Career podcast, proudly brought to you by Ravens Recruitment, Australia's leading specialist pharmacy recruitment agency. If you enjoyed this episode and know anyone else who you think would benefit from it, we would be grateful if you could share it with them. Together, we help even more pharmacists develop a career and life they love. If you have any questions or suggestions about future podcast episodes, please reach out to us via email, info@ravensrecruitment.com.au.